Today, the judge in Donald Trump's hush money trial is likely working on critical jury instructions after telling lawyers that he'll have a draft for them by tomorrow to help them prepare for closing arguments coming up next Tuesday. And while a guilty verdict would require the jury to unanimously agree that Trump falsified business documents to commit or conceal a crime, the judge has already decided it doesn't matter if the jury has different opinions on exactly what crime Trump was allegedly trying to cover up. Joining us now, one of the attorneys who helped with the trial's star witness, Michael Cohen, prepare for his testimony. Joshua Kolb is an attorney at Perry Law. Good to see you. Let me ask you that big picture question first. How important are these jury instructions as far as what actually happens at the end of this trial?
They're quite important. They are the instructions by which the jury will understand how to apply the facts that they have heard throughout the course of this trial to the law. It's the last word the jury will hear before they go to deliberate. And that's why the arguments we heard yesterday, they're quite technical, they're a bit wonky, but they're incredibly important. And there was a lot of effort put into it by both the prosecutors, led by Michael Colangelo, and the defense attorney, Emile Beauvais, in putting that before Judge Marchand. And what we're going to hear tomorrow, I think, will be very important to analyze what we'll see next week in closing arguments.
Michael Cohen, and you spent a lot of time with him. His testimony has been the subject of much debate, widely praised in some circles. On the right, a lot of folks said, oh, there was a disaster. They literally have used the word disaster. So let me ask you very quickly about some things that they say were a disaster, and start with the $60,000 from the Trump Organization that he admits now that he stole, and that they say just shows you this is a guy who can't be trusted. One more piece of evidence.
Yeah, you say he admits now. The only reason the defense even knew about this in the first instance is that Michael himself wrote about this in his book 4 years ago, Disloyal. He has really been on a journey since he pled guilty of making amends, of telling the truth about what happened, even some of the more checkered things that happened, and some things that he may not have been most proud of. He felt particularly aggrieved and upset when his bonus was cut by 2/3. And it may not have been his proudest moment, but it's something that he was forthright about. And I think it actually speaks to the credibility that he walks into the courtroom with, that he can fully reckon with all of these events that happened, and speak about it openly and honestly, even to the point where it will allow someone like Trump's defense team to be able to use that against him from their perspective.
You talk about a journey, but surely in their closing argument, the defense is going to say that journey was all about making money. That's all Michael Cohen ever wanted to do then, and that's all he wants to do now. Get at Donald Trump and make money off of it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Most cooperators have some reason to testify. Usually they have something like their liberty at stake or their family's liberty at stake if they're a cooperating witness. Here, Michael Cohen's already served his time. He already went to prison. He's not on trial here. He's only here really to tell the truth about what happened and to continue to tell the story that he has been telling for the past 6 years. Obviously, he has a certain feeling about Donald Trump. I think anyone who's gone through what he went through would have a certain feeling of animus or frustration with the former president. But acknowledging all of that goes directly towards why he was such a powerful witness in this trial.
All right, let me ask you about what may be a very key point, a 96-second phone call. That, first of all, the defense says was too fast, but also that it was about a conversation about harassing phone calls that Michael Cohen was getting from a 14-year-old. Of course, his testimony is that he was updating Donald Trump on the hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels. How can a jury possibly say which of those stories to believe? There is no unimpeachable fact, right, that shows us what that conversation was about, or is there?
Well, here's what we know. We know, to start with, that the way Michael Cohen and Donald Trump spoke to each other was very brief. They were able to accomplish a lot in a very short period of time, even on the most sensitive of matters, and the jury heard that for themselves on the recording when they were discussing the Karen McDougal matter.
Okay, so they could have talked about it fast, but who's to say that that's what they talked about?
Well, Michael Cohen he has been completely consistent that he spoke to Donald Trump on that day, that he spoke to him throughout that period of time. It's very common for a witness to be refreshed about a recollection when they see text messages or they see something like the text messages he was shown during the cross-examination about the 14-year-old kid. There's nothing inconsistent about the testimony he gave on direct examination, that he spoke to Donald Trump to basically say we're going forward with the Stormy Daniels matter. That's it, in sum and substance. That's all he said they spoke about. And to also speak quickly with Keith Schiller and say, I'm getting these harassing phone calls, what should I do? And Schiller says something to the effect of, send me the message, I'll give it to Secret Service. We saw in court, they were able to bring in, on Michael Cohen's redirect, that picture of Trump and Schiller together just a mere minutes before the call happened, which shows exactly, A, the common way that Schiller and Trump were next to each other all the time. Cohen would have known that when he called Keith Schiller, A, and B, that shows that the inference there is quite clear about what could have happened. There was much made, they made out, he lied, there was some kind of half-truth. I think that's overstating it grossly. His memory was fully refreshed on cross-examination. And one more point I'd make, Chris, that's just worth noting. The only reason the defense knows that is because they were given that information from Michael Cohen's phone. He voluntarily handed his phone over as part of the investigation. So, there was much ado about it. It was a moment. Todd Blanche certainly made a lot of it. We saw that. I saw that in person, sitting a few inches away from him.
And did it give you pause?
No, it didn't. I mean, I think that what you saw...
Honestly?
Yeah, honestly, because what you saw, particularly if you were in that room, and I think the jury saw as well, is that Michael Cohen wasn't flustered. As soon as he saw those text messages, he recalled what had happened. He said, oh, yes, of course. I spoke with Keith Schiller about those things, and then I also spoke with the boss to move forward with the Stormy Daniels matter. And I think what the jury will come away from that entire exchange about is how unflappable, how consistent, how calm, how seriously Michael Cohen took this entire testimony. And even in that moment, which some were calling, it's a Perry Mason moment, if it was a real gotcha, something that was that bad, it would have rocked Michael Cohen. It didn't. He stood there strong. He stood there consistent. His testimony was consistent throughout, and I think the jury understood that.
We've got to go, but I wonder if you can tell us if Cohen is following the proceedings since he left the stand, and sort of how is he feeling going into closing arguments?
He's, frankly, he's exhausted. It's been a long time for him. It's been a lot of stress on him and his family. I think right now he's reconnecting with his family. He's resting. He's taking some time for himself, some well-deserved time for himself, and just sort of getting through the week. And I think he deserves that, if anything.
Joshua Kolb, thank you for coming in.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate it.